Beautiful. Thank you, Laura. Good evening, everyone. Welcome, and thanks for coming out on a very busy week. Would have been busier if we had a football game, but we're gonna make do. We're gonna have one of the best homecomings ever. Hopefully, you could pry some of your students to be here, but we fully understand that this is a very busy week. We're nearing the end of our quarter, and with it being homecoming, the most important part tonight is we wanted to be able to give our junior families an opportunity to learn a little bit about what we do with your students, obviously through this process, and also to hear from some very, very experts, very much experts in the field of admissions for all different types of institutions, and that is really the majority of our program tonight. So I'd like to start real quickly to introduce myself. My name is Ann LePage. And serve as one of the college counselors here at Glenbrook South. This is my 33rd year working with the great students at Glenbrook South, and it's a privilege to be in a school as great as this place. My colleague, John, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm John Klassen. This is my 13th year at Glenbrook South High School. Before I was at Glenbrook South High School, I was a admission counselor at Lake Forest College. So I was on the other side of the desk for 4 years working in admissions. I do a lot of coaching here as well. I coach football, basketball, and lacrosse, and also coordinate the peer group program. So nice to be with you tonight.
So we're going to get started kind of presenting what we would kind of call Finding the Fit program here for you and your students. I just have a quick question before I turn it over for John to get started. For how many of you, is this your first student going off to college? See, and I was telling our speakers at dinner tonight, my informal research is that our school is kind of changing in dimensions, that we have a lot of families that are here with their oldest in our programs. And so welcome. Believe me, you're in a good place. You're going to have lots of support through this process, not only starting with tonight's program, but we'll have another full junior program in the spring. And it isn't in the spring, it's in the winter, in January, what we call our Junior Parent Night 2, which will include lots more of the nuts and bolts. For how many of you is this the last one that you're sending off to college? I could tell because you came in with the big grins on your face, although it's 4 more years of all that tuition money going out. I get the process. I happen to have a junior in my household also, and he's my 4th and last. And so I feel like I've been through this process not only professionally here in the ranks of doing what we do here with your students, but also in my household. So I sympathize. When I asked my son this last summer if he'd like to go see some colleges, his response to me was, "I've already seen some." Okay, so even the college counselor sometimes can't get it all right at home. I'm going to turn it over to John. He's going to give you some of the history of what we've been doing with your kids so far that we guarantee they haven't come home to tell you about.
Thanks, Ann. I want to start just first by giving a brief overview of the curriculum that we've developed in guidance to take your son or daughter through this kind of trying experience in the college search process. So the first thing that we do in the freshman year is we have them establish a Naviance account. Why that's important is we really look at Naviance as being kind of our college locker room, where we want to house all the information over the course of 4 years in Naviance, kind of a one-stop shop when it comes to the college search process. We have resumes, we have test scores, and certainly searching for those colleges. So that's one of the first things that we do in the freshman year. And then we also have them fill out something called the Freshman Getting to Know You Survey. And that really opens up dialogue between your son or daughter and their counselor. They have an opportunity there to talk about some of their goals over the next 4 years, talk about maybe some obstacles that might be in the way of some of those goals. And again, opens up that dialogue. Certainly in the junior year, they also have an opportunity to fill out what's called a letter of recommendation survey. And that again allows that counselor to have more information about that particular student. Then there was a 4-year plan. Some of you probably remember coming in for the 4-year plan conference in freshman year to remember that far. And your son or daughter, excuse me, had an opportunity to work on a curriculum map and set some goals. Your counselor probably talked a little bit about what you want to obtain over the next 4 years in terms of curriculum, maybe some colleges that you might be looking at, whether that might be a selective college or an ultra-selective college, and certainly what you need to do curriculum-wise to obtain those goals. And so that was a 4-year plan. In the sophomore year, we really start to look at the question, why college? Start to ask the question, why? And we look at a variety of different inventories, and students take a variety of different inventories. One is called the Career Interest Profiler, and that has a variety of different questions, and will identify some different potential careers for our students. And I think that's important because we do a great job here in terms of providing a great curriculum for our students and certainly having them take a variety of different courses and prepare them for college. If you ask our graduates whether or not they're prepared for college, all of them will come back and report that they feel very comfortable in their college classes. So we know that we prepare them academically for college. But we want in the sophomore year start to get them to think a little bit more about the career piece. What would they like to do? What would they like to major in when they get to college? And so we spend a lot of time in that sophomore year identifying those areas and doing a lot of research into those areas. What skills are needed? What does it look like if you're going to be a lawyer? What are you actually doing on a day-to-day basis? What do the salaries look like? And so we do a lot of different research regarding that. The plan interpretation, the plan test that your son or daughter took in their sophomore year also has an interest inventory component to it as well. And we also look at that when we interpret the plan and the interest inventory plan. We also do a transcript review in that sophomore year, and I think that's really an important time to sit down. You know, when sophomores look at their transcript, and sometimes we do it in the first semester, sometimes in the second semester, depending on when we're meeting with your son or daughter. And we mentioned the fact that if you're in your third semester of high school, you're halfway done with what you're going to send to college. And that really wakes up a lot of sophomores, because when they hear that, all of a sudden they think, wait a minute, I thought I had until senior year. But the bottom line is, when you send that transcript, you know, in your senior year, you're gonna have 6 semesters on that transcript. Now, one of the things that I love to do with them is, and I'll show you in a minute here, that when we pull up the scatterers, is I like to tell them, listen, this shouldn't be a struggle between you and your parents. Let's pull up some ideas and some colleges that you might want to look at. Well, let's look at where your grade point average is at. And when you go home every night, you think about doing homework, and your mom or dad are, you know, they're hassling you about doing your homework. Where's the goals that you want to get to? How do you want to get there? This shouldn't be between you and your mom or dad anymore. This should be what you want to obtain. And you don't have much time to do that. You have 3 more semesters to build up that cumulative. And then you're going to be sending out that transcript. So this is a great time to give them a little bit of a wake-up call to talk about that transcript. And then we start to get into a little bit of that college planning piece. As we look into now the odds and take them through what a college search might look like, but we certainly don't want to raise too much anxiety regarding the college process, certainly in the sophomore year. So that's, again, the sophomore year, and really we're focusing on that why. In the junior year, we're starting to refine that college search. We're really starting to dive into what schools do you really want to look at? What are reality schools for you? What are schools that are good fits? And I know Anne's going to talk about kind of our college counseling philosophy here in a little bit, but what are those good fits? And then career interest impact on those. We're going to identify things in careers that you might want to do, but do you have the aptitude also for those particular careers and majors in college? You know, if you want to be a pre-med major, but you hate science, Probably might have to look at, maybe look at some other options. So we're going to work with your son or daughter in terms of steering them into the path that's going to suit them the best. There's a feature in Naviance that's called My Resume. I think it's highly underutilized, unfortunately. I think it's a great place to, again, when we talk about using it as your locker for your college information, you can go in there, you can put in your hours and activities and record that for freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year. And then when it comes time to do those applications, you can go right to one place and you can look at all that information and record it right on your application. And I think, we talk continually to our students about using this. I don't think it's being utilized like it should be. But again, if you could go home and talk to your son and daughter about utilizing this My Resume feature in Naviance, I think it will save a lot of time when it comes time to fill out those applications next year. The other thing that I really want to highlight is our college representatives that are visiting the school. When I worked in college admissions, I used to travel around a variety of different schools in the country, talking with students about Lake Forest College. That's where I worked. I know we have some great representatives here with us tonight. It's a great opportunity. It's really an invaluable experience for our students to talk with those representatives when they come to our school, because they're going to give you a first-hand account of what that school offers. We're going to talk specifically about majors that they might want to highlight. And I think it's a great connect for our students to meet face-to-face. Many times, those representatives that come to the school are reading those applications that you're submitting. And so again, to make that contact, to show that demonstrated interest in those representatives is highly important. So I really suggest, I think we had over 200 representatives this year come to our school. So they're coming from all over the country. They're coming to us. And again, it's a great opportunity to connect. Great question. So it's in Naviance, our locker room for everything. If you look at Naviance, and we go into the English classes and talk to all the students about how to register early in the year, and it's really easy. You can look at the schedule. Students can click right on and schedule a visit right through Naviance. They can also actually request information if they can't make it to one of the meetings. So it's really easy to access that. So it's a great question. The other thing that we do in the junior year is we do something called Do What You Are, which is basically the Myers-Briggs personality assessment. And this is just another tool that we use. It's going to give you a personality type. And what we try to do is look at those personality types and again, try to match them up with specific careers. And it kind of gives you, if you have this personality type, if you're an extrovert, and you have these other three characteristics, then you might be, better suited to be in sales. And so again, it tries to match up those students with careers that they would be most comfortable in. And we do some research with that again in the junior year. Now, this is a scattergram, and I think this is, for Naviance, one of the most unique features that it offers. And for those of you, just a quick show of hands, how many of you have been in Naviance? Okay, so maybe 50% of you, great. So the other 50%, hopefully after tonight, I'm guessing you'll look into this a little bit further because I think it's a great resource for you. And this is when I talked before about reality check, goal setting. Okay, when we start to plan and look for appropriate colleges for our students, we'll use this often. We'll pull it up and we'll take a look. What's your GPA? What's your ACT? And how is that looking as we look at different schools? So let's take this school, for example. We have Mr. Tommy the Titan over there. There's a big smile and a thumbs up on his face over there. And he's got a 3.3 GPA and an ACT of a 24. In this case, he's looking at Illinois State University. Now, we have historical data from several years. This is an older slide. Well, typically it's 6 to 7 years worth of historical data of students that have applied. And we keep that data and we publish that data so that you have an idea to see how you compare with other students who are getting into Illinois State University. And in this case, the average comes out to be a 3.03 and a 25 on the ACT. So Tommy the Titan with his 3.3 and ACT of a 24 is certainly in a pretty good spot here, okay, in the screen area. And therefore, he's got the thumbs up and a little bit of the smile on his face, although my son thinks he's kind of freaky looking over there. But you can see Tommy the Titan here. Now, in the next slide, okay, Tommy the Titan has a 3.3 and ACT of 24, and he'd like to apply to the University of Madison. In this case, if you look at the graph, the ACT is 30 and the GPA is a 4.0. I don't know if you should still be smiling over here with the thumbs up and the smile on his face, because Tommy Ted probably doesn't have as good of a chance to get to school at University of Wisconsin. Again, this is reality and goal setting. You know, as we sit down with our students, maybe we start to talk about schools that you would like to look at. Okay? Now, Tommy the Titan might have a smile on his face because he might be an outlier, because we know this is Tommy the Titan and he is superhuman here at Glenbrook South, especially on homecoming week. And maybe he fits into this outlier category over here. Athlete, he's involved in the band, something that provides that outlier status. So again, I think this scattergram is a great resource for you. We'll provide you with a password, guest passwords that you can go in to Naviance, and you can put in your password, and you can certainly play around and put some different schools in there. And again, see what those GPA and ACTs are. And that will, I think, help really in the planning process. This is a great resource that we use, and I would advise you to use it as well. When we talk about academics and academic planning, we'll all meet with the juniors shortly after the second semester begins. And during that time, we'll do academic planning, as well as start to talk about college selection and making some of those selections and requests for your son or daughter. One of the things that we always talk about is to build a strong senior year. Make sure that you have enough academics in your senior year. One of the pet peeves that I had being in college admissions would be when I'd go to a high school and I would look at a potential candidate and I would, you know, want to admit this particular candidate, but they only had maybe 2 academics in their senior year. Therefore, I didn't have enough to evaluate the student out, regardless of the fact that maybe they turned the corner, but they didn't have enough in terms of their academic courses to evaluate that. Maybe they had a math and an English course, but the rest were a bunch of fine art classes that really we couldn't evaluate for this particular school that I was working at. So one of the things that I really talk to my students about is make sure in that senior year, because they kind of think senior year is time, and a lot of them will tell you this, it's time to relax. I've worked hard for 3 years. This is my year. Senior year is my year. It's time to relax. And and I think all the counselors would agree with me, and I know that they would all advise your son or daughter, again, that's the year you need to push yourself, because you never know what schools you're going to apply to, and what schools might be some reach schools where you might need a full academic plate for them to look at and evaluate you on. So I think it's very important that we start to think about academic planning, especially in that senior year, that we keep a strong curriculum. And the other reason is, again, preparation for college. I get a lot of students that want to drop a class because they feel the college won't maybe need this class. And we oftentimes will tell them, maybe the college doesn't need it for admission, but you never know when you're going to need that later on. And you don't know where that puts you when you get to that college. And so we'll really talk about making sure they're prepared. In terms of establishing an upward trend, we always talk about, if you didn't start off freshman and sophomore year really well, you still have an opportunity in your junior and senior year to have that upward trend. Colleges love to see that upward trend, because that kind of tells you where that student's going. But that has to be supported and paired with a good senior year academic curriculum. This is a copy of our transcript, and I just want to point out a few things here, because sometimes there's going to be some confusion in what goes into the academic and then what goes into the all-subject GPA. So our academic GPA is a weighted GPA, and it includes all of English, foreign language, math, science, social studies, and then any other elective course that's taken at the honors or AP level. So that's what goes into the academic GPA. The all-subject GPA is an unweighted GPA, and it includes all of our courses. Now, sometimes you get the question asked, which one should you report to a college? And we'll say report the highest one. Bottom line is the colleges are going to look at the GPA and the courses that they want to look at when they get the transcript. The more selected the school, the more likely they're going to look at that academic GPA. Let's talk a little bit about testing. And I know that junior year brings on a lot of testing. And, as a guidance office, one of the things that we would recommend is really waiting until the spring of your junior year to take your first test. And I know out there in the community, there's a little bit more of a push to take the ACT earlier and earlier, sometimes at the end of your sophomore year. I've heard sometimes in September. And I think we have to really be cautious about how we look at the ACT and testing. We've already talked about the importance of junior year. That's going to represent your 5th and 6th semester of grades that you're going to send to the high school. You can read any article and talk to any admission officer. They'll say that the curriculum and the rigor of your curriculum are the 2 most important things that they look at. And so I think we have to be real cautious when we start pushing our sons or daughters to take tests earlier than they really should be taking them. And then the focus starts to become more on testing and less on the academic piece. In fact, I had a situation a couple of years ago where I got a call from a family that I worked with several of the kids for years. And this particular parent said, my daughter is really struggling right now in her Spanish 4 class. And I really want to talk to you about the potential of dropping that class. I said, okay, well, let's talk a little bit more about what's behind this. So she really just can't keep up with the homework and all that's being asked in Spanish. I said, okay, well, what else is she doing? She's involved in a few sports and other clubs. I said, okay, anything else? She said, well, she's taking this test prep course. And to be honest, she said, her tutor kind of recommended dropping the Spanish 4 class so she spends more time on the test prep. This is September of the junior year. I said, that's the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard, especially being in college admissions before. Said to drop an academic class so that you can focus more on test prep is not a good idea. And so, again, I want to just share that story with you because I think you need to be cautious in terms of how you approach testing. I think companies like to test you earlier so they can show bigger results. The earlier they test it, the ACT is an achievement test, the higher the results can be later on in the year. So again, we'll talk a little bit more about test prep options in a minute. And I'm certainly not saying that test prep isn't important because it is. But I think you have to use caution in the way that you approach it. So again, our College and Career Center, we really recommend February being the earliest. Really spend that first semester concentrating on your curriculum. We will offer an ACT test March 3rd. It will include writing. Students will sign up in their English classes. So we'll take care of all of the signing up for that. Any other test that you do take, you will have to sign up on your own. Sometimes there's some confusion on that. The students will take it for the first time here at Glenbrook South, and we'll take care of signing them up. And then the next time that they take it, they're expecting something magical to happen to get them signed up, and you really have to go online and make sure you sign up for those subsequent tests. But there will be plenty of opportunities to take that ACT. If you took one in March, you can take another one in April, and there's another testing in June. You can take another one in September. So there's plenty of time to take the ACT in that second semester of your junior year into the beginning of that senior year. ACT or SAT, that's certainly a preference that we'll leave to you. There's a fundamental difference in the two. The SAT is more of an aptitude test, test your ability, where the ACT is an achievement test, basically test what you know. So there's a fundamental difference between the two. My personal advice is pick one test and focus on that test because there's certainly idiosyncrasies to each of those tests. And I think partly becoming comfortable with one test is a big part of the battle. Okay.
Most schools then accept both.
Great question. Every school in the United States will accept both now. So you don't have to worry about it. Within the last 4 years, 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Make them take the SAT, but you can make them take the ACT in English. So you have to pick one.
So the PSAT was an elective course and they qualify students for the National Merit Scholarship. So again, we offer that as an opportunity for students to qualify as National Merit Scholars. Okay, it is fashioned after the SAT. The ACT and SAT? No, one or the other. Yeah, and we'll get into more testing during junior parent night too.
How far in advance of March 3rd do they schedule? You said they're scheduled. They schedule for it in English class. How far in advance?
Do they sign up for the actual?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's.
They just changed that state test to March, and so it's kind of uncharted waters for us right now. Probably a couple
It'll be
weeks.
second semester.
Typically, it's like a month, I think, or so before
Yeah.
we want, yeah,
All students.
yeah, but all students will take it. So let's talk a little bit about what we offer here at Glenbrook South in terms of nonprofit, test prep opportunities. We offer a one-to-one, learning center program here at the high school on Saturday mornings or Sunday afternoons. It's 9 sessions, it is $350. Okay, if you look at what other private companies are charging out in the community, they'll probably be 10 times that. Okay,
Is that an hour?
No,
that's total.
total
No,
program.
I know, is
Oh.
that an hour, one-on-one, 9 1-hour session?
No,
No,
goes from 9 o'clock to 12 or to 11:30.
it's a few hours. Yeah. And then we'll also offer sessions at Glenbrook South, and we do have flyers up here that we'll hand out at the end of this program to give you more information. But we do offer programs on Monday and Wednesday evenings at Glenbrook South. Those are 8 sessions, and that's $245. And then we also offer a spring brush-up, 4 sessions in May for $100. So again, as you start to look around and compare, you'll find this to be quite a great value. Take that extra money you save, put it towards that first tuition payment or a really nice vacation. Okay, last thing I want to just talk about quickly is extracurricular activities. Often the question becomes, do colleges want to see a litany of activities on my application to show that I've gotten involved in everything? And the answer is no. They want to see, a designated interest and passion for a couple of activities, okay, that you can handle, that you can rise to the top. Not just joining a bunch of activities just to show that you can put them down on a resume. They want to see, have you risen to positions of leadership within those activities? What have you done that's extraordinary within that particular commitment? So I think, again, you want to be careful in terms of how you look at, you don't want to spread yourself too thin. You want to make sure that you give enough time to the activities you're going to pursue, and that you have passion for those activities. Don't just join them because you feel like you need to put it down on a piece of paper. Be much more interesting, especially for the college admission people, if you're committed to those particular activities and you spend time moving up and being leaders in those particular activities. So I'm going to hand it over to Ann LePage, and she's going to talk a little bit more about the philosophy of our college counseling.
So it's more than just a name on a sweatshirt, right? We spend a lot of time kind of even coaching your kids about that this is really something about a fit. It's not just a school you've heard of or a name that you know or that team you see playing on Saturday. And trust me, we never use this slide with your kids because they don't have a clue who this guy is. So, but in the search, and this is really the time for the search right now, and maybe you started this a little last summer as you were going on your family vacations and looking at schools. But this year is really the time to focus in. If you are starting to think about your spring break plans, I hate to break it to you guys, but you're probably going to be trampling around college campuses. And there aren't many in Cancun. So you want to start to think about basically having an open mind about this, using the resources that are here at Glenbrook South to construct a good list. We really suggest that families start out by looking at a small, a medium, and a large school. Look at different kinds of schools because kids don't know really what they're looking for. And what they think they're looking for usually or sometimes isn't what's best for them. And so I think challenge your kids to kind of broaden their view. And the goal will be to find a list of schools, and any of them they would be perfectly fine at. There isn't just one right best fit. So in the finding the fit, if you change your mindset from that this is a prize that we're going to win at the end of this process, more to, the process and finding what might be best for what they want to study and who they are as an individual, you're going to be a lot more satisfied with this process. So a good fit is a place where you fit academically, it challenges you, but you're not having to study 24/7 to be successful. Because as you remember, although you may not admit it to your own kids, the college experience was a lot more than just the classroom. Okay. Most students are really happy. I had a conversation with a family just this week whose daughter didn't get her first choice and couldn't imagine being anywhere different than where she landed. So you know, oftentimes students are going to be extraordinarily satisfied with the place that they land. Not all colleges are created equal, and you'll feel that once you start visiting and start looking around at the different things that they prioritize. Each of these colleges have their own personalities. So take your time, do your research. And what we tell your kids is they need to protect their options by focusing primarily on what they're doing here in the classrooms, making sure that they preserve their options. There's lots of ways for you to learn about this, and some is just looking at college fairs. We host a college fair every year in the Glenbrooks. This year, Glenbrook North will be the site. It'll be in April. Hundreds of colleges, we had 240 last year, will attend our college fair and give you an opportunity to talk with them firsthand. I know many of you participated last year. For some of your kids who may be thinking about gap year experiences, maybe deferring that decision to go to college for a year when they pursue another interest, New Trier every year hosts a gap fair. A good place for you to start to gather information, even to see if that might be a reasonable option. This will be very, very few people interested in that. If you have a son or daughter interested in the military academies, Vernon Hills High School offers a military academy information night. That'll be later in March, where they have representatives from all the service academies there to talk about that process. A very unique process, pretty big process, and needs to start early, so at least you can get equipped with this. We'll post all this on our website. And then international is getting a lot of play lately. I've had more students this year, I think, than I can remember, interested in they maybe haven't told you yet, but they're interested in studying, not doing a study abroad, but doing their whole college career abroad. So get braced, parents. But there will be an international college fair up at Highland Park Highland Park High School in November. So lots of information out there. We don't drop it off at the end of the senior year or junior year. We will work with your seniors basically to help them finalize their lists and move forward in this process with a good, reasonable list of kind of those 2 safety schools, 2 likely schools, and 2 maybe reach schools. The average student applies to about 5.9 schools from Glenbrook South, and we'll help them understand what they need to do with their letters of recommendation. We'll give you an opportunity to contribute to that by completing a parent brag sheet, and then we process all these applications through their Naviance account. Important that your student is very much involved with Naviance. We invite you to be involved with Naviance, and you'll learn more about it in our junior parent night too. So if I were to give you any pearls of wisdom around this whole process, the pearls are yet to come when our speakers speak tonight. But first off, you need to be realistic. We always tell students, don't be afraid to aim high, but also be realistic about the fact that you can have a great academic profile and still have challenges in some of those most selective schools that are out there. They're not the only show in town, though. Don't rely on myths and rumors. And this is hard for our parents at times because the landscape has really changed since you went. And it's not the same, and you know, it's not as easy for your students and to get into some schools as maybe it was back in the day when you went. I was going to say back in the Stone Age when you went, but it isn't. It's a little bit different nowadays. And if you recognize us as a resource, then you won't go to the, you know, cocktail circuit out there or to the line at Jewel to get all your college information. We'll all be in better shape. So please feel free to rely on us. Be careful not to stereotype colleges or people in this process, because again, things have changed. I visit lots and lots of schools, and I sometimes go with a preset of thinking what it is, and I am very shocked when I get there how different it is. And so you want to have an open mind around the process. Be careful about thinking about costs as the first and foremost thing that you'll think about. You'll learn tonight from some of our speakers that there are huge differences in costs for institutions, but you need to be aware, and I would invite you to start these conversations with your your kids at home about the realities of the position that you're in and what you can afford and where your limits are. There's lots of great information in our junior parent night 2 in January. You'll learn more about the specifics of how can you get prepared for this. And then in March, we'll have a junior college financing night that will also help you in the logistics of getting prepared. Keep a sense of humor, especially when people say, don't think first about costs, right? You do have to have a sense of humor because your kids will be up and down and across the board and all over the place on this. It can be very trying at times in your households to navigate this process. But again, it's not the end-all be-all decision. It's an important decision, but there's lots of good solutions. Encourage your kids, okay? But be careful about your role in this. Be careful not to overstep. If I could give you a piece of advice, if you are too involved in this and have too much ownership of this process, when it goes south, guess whose fault it is, right? Your kids are capable of doing this process. They have tons of support here at school, and we invite you to be a part of the process, but in your role as a supporter, not as the lead. And last but not least, keep things in perspective. All kids are at all different levels around this. We'll help you, we're there for you, but it isn't always lockstep for every kid. But we certainly will be there to help you. So the most important part of our evening tonight is the speakers that we have. And we're gonna first off start by introducing Michelle Brown. She's involved as the enrollment director for Oakton Community College. Last year out of our graduating class, we sent more students to Oakton Community College than any other school on our list. Many of our families are choosing to start at the community college for a variety of reasons. The more important theme that I've heard in my office over the last few years is financial. And so we'll start with Michelle giving you a little bit of insight as to what can the community college offer your students. And then we'll turn over to Greg Perry, who has over 30 years experience in a large public institution, U of I to be specific, working in their admissions office in his roles, obviously in admissions and also working with the engineering committees for admissions and also international admissions. So he's got a great insight as to what might the large public institution offer. Specifically U of I, but generally all large institutions. What might that offer for your student? And to last but not least, Bob Murray, who is the Director for Enrollment Management at Illinois Wesleyan, small liberal arts institution, Bloomington Normal. We'll talk to you about that process and what might a smaller institution. One of our bigger challenges in this large high school is getting our students to think about possibly attending a school that's smaller than their high school. But he'll give you a little insight as to what might be some of the features that might work for your student in that type of setting. So without further, I'm going to pass it on to you, Michelle. Thank you very much. And we'll have time at the end of all the presentations for some questions. That's all yours.
Thank you, Ms. LePage. Welcome. My name is Michelle Brown. I'm the Director of Student Recruitment and Outreach at Oakton Community College. I've been at Oakton for about 13 years and doing this presentation to high school juniors and their parents for 13 years. So I'm really excited to be here. This is a special year for me because I also have a high school junior, not at GBS, but a high school junior. So I'm going through what you're going through, the same process, and it's interesting to be on the side of a parent versus telling parents what they should be doing. So I do want to reiterate that you're very fortunate that you're at such an amazing high school as GBS. You have amazing resources here with your college counseling staff, with just the resources they offer you through Naviance and with all the college reps that come to campus. So make sure you take advantage of those resources. There's really no reason to go anywhere else to get your information because there's knowledgeable staff here and you can really get what you need here in your high school. So take advantage of that. Prior to my 13 years at Oakton Community College, I also have worked at four-year public universities and four-year private universities, both large and small. And during that time, I worked mainly with transfer students. So I know the transfer process from both ends, the community college transferring to the four-year and the four-year bringing in the community college students. So tonight, I'm going to focus on talking to you a little bit about what a community college has to offer and why you would want to possibly consider a community college on your list. Community colleges used to be called junior colleges. The common perception was that students received a junior or a second-rate education. And they've also kind of been seen for people that only struggle academically in high school and can't get in to a four-year college. That's kind of the old perception of community colleges. But today, community colleges are seen as an excellent resource of higher education and excellent opportunity for students to start their education. Community colleges are actually the largest sector of higher education in the US, enrolling more than 6 million students each year. And every fall, about 64% of all Illinois college students are enrolled in a community college. And as you heard Ms. LePage mention, there's a large number of students from GBS that attend Oakton Community College. We get about 80 to 100 graduates every year that choose to come to Oakton to start their college education. And in total, we have about 200 students at GBS. President Obama has a goal, some of you have heard, that he wants to lead the world in the highest proportion of college graduates by 2020, and community colleges are going to produce a lot of these graduates. So let me start with the whole concept about what is a community college. And the question is not meant to insult you. Many of you probably know what a community college is, but a lot of people don't really understand fully what the community college is. So the community college is really your college, your community's college. We offer credit and non-credit classes for any members of the community. And what I'm going to focus on today is your students enrolling in a community college. So your students would be the students focusing on the credit classes. The majority of students that come from GBS are looking to do a transfer program at Oakton Community College. And what this means is you start your first 2 years at Oakton and take general education classes. That would be English, math, humanities, social sciences, foreign language, natural sciences, and then transfer to a four-year college or university to work on your last 2 years to obtain the bachelor's degree. So it's 2 years at the community college, 2 years at the four-year college or university equals the bachelor's degree from the four-year college or university. It's not extra classes you have to take at the community college. It's equivalent to the first 2 years that any student starting at a four-year school would be taking. Enrollment at a community college is open to any person who graduated high school. We don't look at high school GPA or ACTs for admission, but we do look at those things for admission to the honors program, for scholarships, and for placement into math, reading and writing classes. So those are important, but not as important as applying to the four-year schools. So from that regard, it is a good option for students that maybe had a rough time in high school, weren't that academically stellar as they wanted to be, or maybe had an off year that something happened in the family dynamics or something altered, their academic record. Sometimes students have a year they're sick, or unfortunately if parents get divorced, they have a year that doesn't really show their true academic talent. So they could come to the community college and basically start fresh and start their GPA from zero. And then when they transfer to the four-year college or university, they have their associate degree, which is the 2-year program. Then the four-year college or university is just looking at their grade point average from the community college and isn't worried about necessarily what their ACT or SAT score is or their high school record. That's sometimes also advantageous for students that aren't good test takers and maybe can't get into their first choice college. They could come work on their first 2 years and work on a strong GPA to get into their first choice college as a transfer student as opposed to incoming freshmen. So let me talk about the top 3 reasons of why students choose Oakton Community College. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the variety of the different programs and the course offerings. Then, of course, I'm going to talk about the financial savings. Ms. LePage mentioned many students are choosing, many families and students are choosing community college because of the financial benefits. And then finally, I'll talk about the convenience and the quality of the education at community college. So let's talk about college majors and academic goals. So how many students here in the audience know what they want to major in college? Raise your hand if you know what you want to major in. Couple, I see less than a half a dozen hands up. Okay, those few of you that had your hands up that you know what you want to major in, you're likely to change your mind 3 times before you graduate. Most students don't know what they want to major in college when they're a junior, let alone what they want to do with the rest of their life. Okay, how many parents know what they want to do with the rest of their life? Okay, I'm just kidding. You don't have to raise your hands. So those students that actually choose a major going into college, 80% of them are going to change their major at least once before they graduate. Most students will change their major up to 3 times before they graduate. And the most popular major of all majors, anyone want to take a guess? What's the most popular major? Shout it out. Business, good guess. English, good guess. Psychology, good guess. Nursing, good guess. None of those are right. The most popular major is undecided. 60% of students go to college undecided of what they want to major in. So if you're not sure, it's okay. Don't feel that pressure of everyone asking you, where are you going to go to college and what are you going to major in? Tell them you don't know yet. You don't know, you don't know. So the community college is a great place to start exploring different majors and different career options. So if you don't know, you could come to the community college, take the general education I spoke about, and try different things. Try a business class, try an accounting class, try a history class, and see what speaks to you. See where your interests lie. You don't have to declare your major until you transfer in your junior year. So that's one reason why a lot of students choose community college. They want to explore majors, try different things. We also have some excellent opportunities for students to study abroad, and we have an amazing honors program, which helps give them the opportunities and challenges they might be looking for that they think only a 4-year college offers, which isn't the case. Community college offer these opportunities also, and we have also sports and extracurricular activities for students to get involved in. We do have some career option programs. So for students that don't think they want to go off for 4 years and get a bachelor's degree, there are programs that students can do at a community college and get a degree in 2 years, which prepare you for the work world. So for example, an associate degree in nursing, you could work as a nurse after 2 years of college at the community college in the nursing program. Things like automotive, like web design, technology, accounting certificates, things like that are options that some students might choose and start working, and then maybe decide later that they want to go back and get a bachelor's degree or higher. And in some cases, employers will pay for those higher level degrees, which is also a nice bonus. So in Illinois, we're very fortunate that we have this program called IAI. It's called Illinois Articulation Initiative. And what IAI means, it's an agreement between all the state schools in Illinois and all the community colleges in Illinois and almost all the private schools in Illinois. What this agreement says is that students can go for their first 2 years at community college, follow this IAI general education curriculum, get their associate's degree, and then transfer to those 4-year schools in Illinois and be guaranteed junior standing. So basically all their general education is complete. Now you still have to meet the admission requirements, so you have to have the GPA and any classes they want you to take to prepare for the major. But it is a nice compact agreement that not all states have, that we have in Illinois. So students can follow that and work with an academic advisor at the community college and make sure they're on track taking those IAI classes so that they can transfer smoothly to schools in Illinois. We also have a lot of students that transfer outside of Illinois to other 4-year schools. The Midwest tends to be the most popular, but I'll give you just an example of the most popular schools that GBS students who start at Oakton transfer to. In this order, the first #1 school they transfer to is U of I Urbana, then U of I Chicago, then DePaul, and then Loyola. So those are the top 4 of where the GBS students transfer to after Oakton. But also there's a large number of students that go to schools like University of Iowa, Columbia College, Purdue, University of Wisconsin-Madison, Miami University, Bradley, and Marquette, and the list goes on. So there's a lot of options for students. They're not limited to Illinois just because of the IAI. It just makes it smooth in Illinois, but there's also a lot of options to transfer out of state. And the academic advisors at Oakton help students in that planning and preparation for transfer. Okay. Oh, the other thing I want to mention is there's a lot of dual admission agreements, which means that students as a high school senior can apply for dual admission to Oakton and a 4-year college or university. And then after they complete their 2 years at Oakton, as long as they maintain a certain GPA, they have guaranteed admission to that 4-year. So a good example of this is a new program that we just started with University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign's Engineering College. So students can start at Oakton, do 2 years, and then transfer with a guaranteed admission to U of I's engineering as long as they maintain a certain GPA and take a certain set classes that are outlined for the transfer. And things like that are really nice for high school seniors that are looking to go to certain schools and know what they want to major in. There's also a program that we just put together with Roosevelt University where students can get their pharmacy degree, their PharmD, their doctorate in pharmacy by coming to Oakton for 2 years and then transferring to Roosevelt University's pharmacy program in Schaumburg, 3 more years after Oakton, and they'll have their PharmD degree. So 2 + 3, 5 years total for a PharmD degree with a guaranteed admission is pretty unique. Again, for specific students that know they want those programs. But if you're interested and you know where you want to transfer, what you want to major, then talk to me or the other admission reps that come from Oakton and we can help you out with any of those programs. The American Association of Community Colleges says that 70% of students who transferred from a community college to a 4-year school finish with a bachelor's degree. That's 10% higher than those that start as incoming freshmen. So we know that transfer students are successful. A lot of 4-year college and universities say that transfer students are more focused, more motivated, and they have goals that are defined and they know what they want. And so they tend to do really well. So retention is high. The other thing I want to talk about is that, Glenbrook South is preparing you all very well academically. The curriculum here is challenging. There's a lot of options for honors and AP, which I hope you're all taking advantage of. And you might do all that and do really well, but there's going to be students that even though you're academically ready to go away to a 4-year and you can go away, there's a lot of options for you and you can get admitted to a lot of schools, you might really not be ready emotionally or socially. Maybe you have family commitments that keep you here at home. Maybe you have siblings that you help take care of. Maybe you have some commitment in the community, like a religious commitment or community service that you're active in and want to stay involved in. That's another reason that students choose to go to the community college so they can stay at home and continue with those commitments. Now, parents, if you really want to get them out of the house, then you can just ignore all those other commitments, send them off. But that is another reason that students stay. The second thing I want to talk about was the cost and the financial benefits of attending community college. So CNN Money reported in May of last year that the class of 2013 is in for a rude awakening. That's a quote. Luckily, that's not you guys, but before you. The 2013 college graduates are facing average college-related debt of at least $35,200 in government loans, private loans, state loans, credit card debt, other college expenses. And the Project on Student Debt reports college debt in the state of Illinois is number 15 of all the states. So of all 50 states, we're number 15 as far as the amount of college debt. And I'm sure you guys have heard the rumors that college debt has now exceeded credit card debt in this country. So I'm sure you're thinking about this as a concern. And as Ms. LePage mentioned, you don't want that to be the reason you don't apply to colleges, but it's something to start talking about and thinking about. The National Association for College Admission Counseling recently reported that 70% of high school seniors nationwide were forgoing their dream school, their first choice school, for more budget-conscious decisions. So families and students are making choices because of financial reasons. If you save money up front with the first 2 years of college, you can put that money towards graduate school, professional degrees, or all sorts of things. And just to give you some averages, this is based on the College Board's recent 2013 trends in college pricing. This is online if you want to take a look at it. There's some really interesting statistics in this report. It's about 37 pages, but I'm just going to give you a snapshot of kind of averages. So for tuition and fees and room and board living on campus, for private 4-year colleges, the average, this is a national average, not just Illinois, the average is $40,900 per year. That doesn't include books or transportation costs or other living expenses, just tuition, fees, room and board. And it's not, of course, looking at any scholarship money or financial aid, just sticker price. Public 4 years for out-of-state, $31,700. Public 4 years in-state, $18,400. Community colleges, $3,300. That's per year. So just something to keep in mind when you're looking at schools. I would recommend, and this is what I'll recommend for my high school junior, that you look at all types of schools, you apply to different types of schools, you apply for scholarships and financial aid. Once you get all your awards, then we look at it all together and decide what makes sense, what is going to be a good fit, and both financially and a good fit for you as a student, and go from there. Don't rule them out up front, but consider it once your financial aid all comes in. Oakton Community College actually gives scholarships. A lot of people think, whoa, you probably don't give scholarships because it's so affordable. We actually give almost 500 scholarships a year. Last year we gave $510,000 in scholarships to students. So if you're a good student, there's a lot of opportunities that you could actually come to Oakton tuition free for your first 2 years of college. So why is a community college so affordable? A lot of people say, oh, you get what you pay for. I'm not going to send my student to a community college because it's so cheap. Well, your guys are actually already paying for the community college. If you've looked at your tax bill lately, it's on there. So the community college is funded by 3 sources: the state of Illinois, which we know is broke, so we don't get much money from anymore, your taxes, and tuition. So in a sense, you're already paying, so you might as well take advantage of it. Even if you don't come directly to the community college after high school, keep us in mind for summer class in between, your 4-year experience. It's a good option to kind of catch up, take an extra class that you might need if you're doing a major and a minor, or double major, things like that. So the last thing I'm going to touch on really quickly, because I know we have other speakers that want to get up here, and they're shooting me a dirty look, so hurry up and get off the stage. Convenience and quality. So I talked about convenience, staying at home. Quality, our faculty are amazing. Our faculty's job is to teach students, and their job is to help students succeed. And we define success by helping students reach their goals. So if your goal is to transfer, your goal is to get a job, your goal is to get that certificate or that degree, that's what our faculty are really trained to do. They are not required to do research or to publish, although many of them do. They're required to teach in the classroom. So all our classes are on average about 20 students. They're all taught by faculty. The faculty are very involved in the student success and want to see the students succeed. So I want to throw that out there. We also have faculty that teach the same classes at Oakton that they're teaching at U of I, UIC here in Chicago, or Loyola, DePaul, Northwestern even. So they're doing the same curriculum, same type of classes. We have a lot of students that could go away to 4-year colleges and universities and come take a class at Oakton in the summer because I think it'll be easier. Like, I'm just going to get my calculus out of the way over the summer at Oakton, then they're in for a big surprise. Wow, I have to study. That faculty member expects me to do so much. So that's all I want to say about quality and convenience, because I want to move on. A couple things I just want to close with is we have an excellent program at Oakton. If your son or daughter wants to try a community college class before they graduate high school, they can do so for free. They can take a community college class. It has to be academic class, academic credit class. They could take their first class at Oakton for free. It has to be while they're still in high school, so they can't do it after they graduate. We don't recommend that they take it during the academic year if they have GBS. They should really focus on their GBS academics first. But if they have a lighter load, or if they have time during the summer, then consider possibly an Oakton class. Summer is pretty intense because we're going to be pushing 16 weeks of curriculum into 8 weeks. So it's going to be very fast paced. And classes meet Monday through Thursday, so 4 days a week. But something to consider if you want to try a college class, and it will start your college transcript. You can use that when you apply to 4-year colleges to say, I have a college class under my belt, and hopefully you'll do well in it, and that will help you. So in closing, the 3 reasons to consider a community college is the variety of course offerings, trying different majors if you're not sure what you want to major in, the cost and the financial benefits, of course, and then convenience and quality. And with that, I just want to wish you all luck in your college search, and I hope that the parents are there to help guide you and ask questions and help you along the way, but ultimately the decision needs to be yours, because if it's not yours, you'll be miserable wherever you end up. So it has to be yours, and good luck with that process.
Once again, my name is Greg Perry, and I'm with the University of Illinois in Urbana. And as you heard, I chair the engineering committee there and do some international admissions work. A lot of stress in the college search process. You probably already know that. In fact, I'm probably ratcheting up that stress just by standing here and talking about it. Good news out there is that I can take a lot of that away for you, not all of it, but I'm going to give you a few little tips here on how to reduce some of that stress that you're going to face over the next year or so. And in the context of that, talk a little bit about the different kinds of universities. My first advice to you, tune out the noise. And there's a lot of noise out there. Everybody's an expert in college admissions because they either went through it themselves or they knew somebody who did once. Therefore, they're going to give you all kinds of unsolicited advice about a college selection. It's probably happening already. If not, some of the first things you're going to hear, the noise, really addresses what we're talking about tonight, and that is different types of schools. You go to a place like the University of Illinois, well, you'll just be a number. All your classes will have at least 800 or 900 people in them. You'll never see a professor. If you did see a professor, it wouldn't matter. You won't be able to speak English. And on. You'll hear that from somebody. And the same would go for a small liberal arts college. Oh, it'll be stifling. It's just like high school. There won't be enough challenge there for you. It's too small, not enough things to do there. Or community college, let's not even talk about that. That's easier than high school. You certainly wouldn't want to go there. All of those opinions offered out there, just dispense with those. Tune out the noise. I think a good philosophy of life to live by is that your neighbors don't know what they're talking about on any topic, really, but especially on college admissions. Tune them out. Another place, I'm going to give you examples of where to get bad information here so we can move into the mode of getting good information. Newspapers. Not a good place to be assessing your chances for admission to a college. Sometimes they get it right, often they get it wrong, and particularly letters to the editor. You can write anything, a letter to the editor, and doesn't make it true. To give you an example, I complained once to a newspaper because they had written an article and they were quoting this father, and he said, my son had such and such a test score and he had these kind of grades and he got denied at the University of Illinois. And I complained to the newspaper and said, well, when somebody says that, before printing it, why don't you ask the father to show you the score report that his son has and look at his grades? And their response was, we're not printing that as a fact, we're just quoting the father. Well, it wasn't true. I mean, I guess I could tell you my kid has a 38 on the ACT. I guarantee you my kid's his score is higher than yours because I have a 38 and I can write that in the newspaper. You can't take that for the truth out there. It's just lots of misinformation in the newspaper, which wouldn't be important, except I think people are making decisions based on that. And of course, that stress level going up when they see somebody with these incredible credentials and they're not getting admitted to that school, maybe, but more likely maybe not. Or what's more often the case when you're talking about newspapers is you don't know the whole story. And I'll give you one quick example on that is in my engineering committee, I did have a student who did have a 34 ACT and outstanding grades, all kinds of AP courses. And I think he was second in a class of some 900. Clearly admissible, no problem at all. But my eye kind of wandered and I noticed where usually there's the essay, which I wasn't going to read because that student didn't need it. The credentials were there. Rather than a whole paragraph, there was one sentence. So I wonder what that's about. And I read the sentence and it said, I don't have to fill this out. I've already been admitted to schools far better than the University of Illinois. Now, does anybody here think that student should have been admitted? I think nobody? He had 34. Good grades. By the rules, I have to admit that student because he's objectively eligible for admission to Illinois. So what did I do? I denied him because he deserved it. Now, I got in trouble for that, but that's not my point. But letters to the editor, outraged state representatives, stories in the newspaper, he had a 34 ACT, true. He was second in a class of some 900 students, absolutely true. He had all kinds of AP courses and college courses, absolutely true. And the University of Illinois denied him. Who do they think they are? But everyone in this room agreed with me that he should not have been admitted when you know the whole story. So understand when you're hearing those rumors out there, whether it's from your neighbor or in the newspaper, you may be getting misinformation. You may be getting accurate information, but not quite the whole story, and there's a lot of that going on out there. Students tell each other a lot of things that you've got to put out of your mind. When I talk to a group of high school students, they'll often raise their hand and ask a question, and they start out by saying, I heard, and I usually stop them right there and say, I'm going to let you finish your question, but I just want to stop you there because as soon as you hear those words, I heard, red flags should be going up right away. Probably what you're about to hear is nonsense. So, for example, a student say, well, I heard that University of Illinois is only allowed to admit a certain number of students from each high school. Absolutely untrue. Now, good, that student checked that out rather than just believing it. But that quota rumor that's been floating around for all my 30 years at the University of Illinois, somebody at some point had to make that up because there never has been any kind of quota whatsoever. Somebody makes it up and it just gets keeping repeated, and you hear it repeated enough and you think, well, it must be true. And it's not. It's just not factual information. So bad places to get information. Where do you get the information? Well, congratulations, you're here tonight. Good start. And as you've already heard, of course, you have an outstanding counseling staff. Start there. They probably know the answer. And if they don't know the answer, I can guarantee you they know where to call and get the answer. Or you can call directly. Even a big place like Illinois, you'll get right through to a counselor. If they can't talk to you, we'll take a call back, get back to you within that same day. Get accurate information. You've got to throw out that noise that you're hearing from other kids in the hall, from your neighbors, from the newspapers. Now, one of the big advantages to a large university like Illinois, I would say is the diversity that's out there. And we pay a lot of lip service to diversity, but I'm not sure people really understand what it means. We tend to focus on racial and ethnic diversity. That's important, but there's a whole lot more to look at when you're looking at a university. Different ways of thinking, different style. And I fell for the noise when I was picking schools because I was picking between the University of Illinois and another university I won't name, but it got a great education there. But the deciding factor was all these people telling me, well, you go to Illinois, everybody's from Illinois and everybody's the same there. It won't give you exposure to anybody else. So I go to this other university where people are from all over the country. How wonderful will that be to be exposed to people like that from all over the United States? And I get to that university, and everybody there is just like me. White, affluent, Catholic. A white affluent Catholic from New York is very similar to a white affluent Catholic from the state of Illinois. There was no diversity on that campus to speak of. Worse, they even were lockstep in their political thinking and everything else. It was a very conservative place. So I went to graduate school at the University of Illinois, where everybody's supposed to be the same. What a change. What kind of diversity that you find there. Different Methodists, imagine that. The different ways of thinking about things, all kinds of political discussions going on. If your son or daughter thinks they're a Democrat or a Republican or neither, I hope that their freshman year roommate is just the opposite. Because if you're not going to be exposed to different ideas in college, if you're going to be going to a place where everybody's thinking just like you and everybody is just like you, I think you're losing one of the biggest parts of college. There's a book out now called something like Things You Won't Hear at High School Commencement. And one of the things he said is your time spent at fraternity parties will be well spent. Well, actually, don't get carried away, because what he was really getting at is it's the people that you're meeting at a college or university is so important. You actually need to be focusing on that. And international students is a big example of that. Everybody has international students on their campus. University of Illinois, we've got the second largest in the country. People are missing out on an opportunity there. I was in the United Arab Emirates and talking to former students from Illinois, and they're showing me all these pictures of events on campus, and they go to Six Flags, hundreds of pictures. Everybody in the picture was Emirati. And I said, do you not have American friends? And their response was, no, it's very hard to make friends with Americans. So I got 50 tour guides working for me back in Urbana. They're all American. I say to them, do you guys have international friends? And they say, oh, no, it's very hard to meet international students. They tend to stick to themselves. Well, you got this group sitting on this side of the room and that group sitting on that side of the room. And if somebody doesn't walk over and say, hello, my name's Daniel, and start talking, you're going to miss out on that opportunity. So go wherever you go to college, go with the mindset that international students, part of the reason they came here was to meet Americans. So go up and be the host and introduce yourself. It'll be a great addition to your education. And an international student that we do have on our campus in Urbana told me it's actually prestigious when you have an American friend. You walk down the quad and your other friends from Singapore, for example, will see you and they say, who was that? You know, that's my American friend. You have an American friend? How did you meet him? It's both sides wanting to get that connection there. That's something that no matter where you go, even if it is a small school, they've got international students to make an effort there. And I think you're going to add to that experience. That diversity is something you should have out there. Those of you who went to the University of Illinois know that right on the main quad by the Illini Union, there are demonstrations pretty much every day. Sometimes it's innocuous and it could be somebody actually just doing musical numbers from a play or something. But on some days there's people out there with an issue and they're angry and there's usually some hecklers from the other side of that issue. And when our tourists come back, some of them are a little bit uncomfortable with that. I was saying, how often do you have demonstrations here? I go, every day. And thinking, I'm not sure if I want to be in a place like that. That's a wonderful thing. There should be controversy. You should be challenged at Illinois or a big university or any university that you ultimately decide on. You should be hearing phrases like, step outside your comfort zone, push the envelope, stretch. We're going to ask things of you that make you uncomfortable. We're going to ask things of you that you don't want to do. We're going to make you nervous. That is something you should be seeking out. And controversies on a campus, if you may not see somebody demonstrating, but look at the bulletin board, see what kind of posters are up there. You can see what's going on campus. It's amazing. There could be 2 tiny, obscure countries in the world who are having a border dispute over a tree, and we'll have a demonstration on that issue. And there will be somebody else out there heckling and saying, no, it's not your tree, it's our tree. And they'll be going back and forth on this. What a great exposure to meet people from all over the world with all kinds of issues that are out there. That's something you should be seeking out. And that is something in particular that a large university just gives you that many more opportunities to do. Another, actually probably the biggest stress factor in looking for college is this. And if you can fix this one, you will reduce your stress load by at least half, if not 75%. And that is procrastination, waiting till the last possible minute. And this is getting worse and worse because the typical 17-year-old in the computer age thinks you push a button and everything is instant and it's all done. On a typical deadline day at the University of Illinois, it's deadline day, we will get 9,000 applications in that day. The kids are flabbergasted that they weren't all processed within about 3 minutes after they hit the submit button. They don't get it, and it will help you if you can help them get it, that there's still a backroom process. There are still steps that need to be taken. And one of the ways you can reduce the stress, apply now. Apply in the first 2 weeks in November. The processing time, if your son or daughter submitted their application in the next, say, 2 weeks, would be an hour. And you would suddenly see it online and everything had been tweaked and fixed. If you wait till the deadline, like 9,000 other people do, that hour processing time, 4 days. A very stressful 4 days. Because you're going to want to see that's what's on that online. And unfortunately, as much as you might want to help them out of it, you can't. The biggest phone day we have at the University of Illinois is the day after deadline day. I supervise that operation. We put 18 counselors on the phone at all times, and we can't keep up. We're taking callbacks at the rate of 50 to 60 an hour, and we're calling them back. Why are we getting thousands of calls the day after deadline? Everyone is the same issue. I just submitted my application yesterday, and I can't see it online. Could you just check, make sure everything is there? And the answer is, no, I can't. I can't check. I can't make it better for you. Well, what if I find out something's missing? Well, you're going to find out in 3 days. But you're not going to find out now, and if you had applied 2 weeks ago, you would know all this. That is very stressful. So build a buffer in, no matter what deadline or what university that you're working with, pick out a deadline, that's when they want it, back it up 2 weeks. you will do yourself a favor, reduce that stress load dramatically, and not go through those 3-4 days of agony while you're waiting for those 9,000-10,000 applications to be processed. It's a huge problem with computers. Even if you just can understand and assure your kid, it's like the hotel websites. I made a reservation. Now I go back and look at my Hilton account and it says reservations might not show up for 2 hours. Same thing, except applications might not show up for 4 days if you apply at the last minute with everyone else. And if you know that and can reassure your kid, it's okay, it takes time, that may help you out. One other thing I would urge you to be conscious of, and this is ramping up and getting out of hand too. Give you an example. I was presenting at our daily visit program on campus, and it's an auditorium with about 200 people, 225 people in the room, and it was full. And I did the presentation, and there was a kid there, and he put up his hand. He had a question at the end, and he said they had just visited a college that had just built their new water park. And as he described it, they have a lazy river, which I guess is this thing, and you sit in an inner tube, and then you float. And his question was, is the University of Illinois going to build something like that in order to stay competitive? Now, all my friends here in the front row, they've known me a long time, and they will tell you that I am rarely speechless. But I just stood there with this look of stupefaction on my face, heard the words water park, and the father, seeing my distress, thought he would throw in a helpful comment and said, it's to help the kids unwind. Wow. There's a lot of it out there. You will go around to colleges and you will hear, the whole tour, you will hear about luxury dorms, private bathrooms, daily cleaning service. You will hear about fine cuisine. You will hear about water parks. And all of these things are cunningly packaged to the 17-year-old perspective. And I would urge you to have a discussion with your son or daughter about what are we really looking for in a college? Is it the water park? Or are you hearing words at a particular college like you're going to be challenged, we're going to make you nervous, you're going to have to stretch here, there are going to be things here that you won't necessarily like, but in the long run it will help in that growth. Much of the costs in college has to do with that country club mentality of what they're offering there. I offer $5,000 scholarships on the phone to people routinely. So people, ears go up here and they get out the pen, because they'll be talking about the cost being prohibitive, and I'll say, well, here, I'll give you a $5,000 scholarship right now. Move out of that luxury dorm with the private bathroom and the hardwood floors and the granite counters, which they're actually advertising, and move into a regular dorm with 2 people in the bathroom down the hall. $5,000 less. And people look at me like, well, I'm not going to do that. Well, that's your choice. But that's the kind of thing that is going to add on to the cost, and I believe really is misdirected completely. You should be looking more for the challenge of a place and what it's going to do, how it's going to prompt you with growth and stretching and stepping outside your comfort zone. So just a little bit about your search. I hope by trying to build in that 2-week buffer, not doing things on the last day, big reduction in stress, tune out that noise, go to the right source for your information, and you can find, this is actually going to be fun. It should be fun. I hope it is for you, and don't let those other distractions mess up what can be a very exciting time for you and your kid. So thanks. I love the water park. We do not have a water park, and we will not be building a water park.
Sorry, you might be getting a little bit of glare. I apologize for that. How many of you, again, this is your first child, your oldest child to go through? Good, okay, good. Don't believe anything we've said tonight then. That's very helpful. I do want to mention that this whole finding the fit is really very important because I think we also need to appreciate actually where we live. Now, living here last year during the winter, not a lot of fun. But I will tell you, I just returned from Phoenix and Scottsdale area 2 weeks ago, where I was meeting with students and parents. And it always hits me that when I'm in Arizona, that the people who live in the Midwest, and particularly in Illinois here, we are so advantaged. In Illinois, there is every type of institution that you could possibly seek in the entire world. We have some of the smallest schools, we have some of the largest schools, we have some of the most expensive, we have some of the least expensive. You could throw a dead cat and it's gonna land on a college campus here in Illinois, right? But you go to Arizona and they don't have those choices. In fact, there is not one liberal arts school in the state. If a student wants the type of experience that I can provide them with, they have to go quite a distance. They probably have to get on a plane to get the type of experience that we can offer. Whereas you are so advantaged that you can hop in a car and probably within at least 2 to 2.5 to 3 hours, you could visit every type of institution that we are representing and actually every other type of school in between. So I hope you do look at the positive of that and take advantage of that. You don't have to go to the East Coast in spring break to see all the different types of options or opportunities that are available. You can do a Midwest trip. It's cost effective. It's actually somewhat scenic. You can find the type of school that you're considering. And then you may find that it will require a trip to the East Coast or the West Coast or somewhere in between. But please take advantage of this finding the fit. You know, I love the shot of John Belushi. We actually denied John Belushi admission many, many years ago. So I still don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but we did deny him admission. So I will just say real quickly too, if you want to learn more about the liberal arts, I would urge you to go to a website called the Annapolis Group. The Annapolis Group is a representative group of about the 100 top national liberal arts schools in the country, and there's just all sorts of information on there. So if you want to learn more later, I think that would be a good place to probably start out. But I like to remind students that I feel that a liberal arts education, well, maybe I should back up here. There's a difference between a liberal arts degree and having a liberal arts educational experience. You can go to virtually any college or university and receive a liberal arts degree. You can go to the University of Illinois and receive a liberal arts degree. You can do the same at community colleges. So there's a difference, though, between what I'm going to talk about tonight in terms of just receiving a liberal arts degree versus a liberal arts experience. And I think that's important because I feel very strongly about the fact that for 17 and 18-year-olds that are going into college, that the liberal arts experience, the liberal arts education is really for the whole mind. And some of you, if you've heard us before, I apologize, but our type of an education is really one for both sides of the brain, both the left side and the right side. And if any of you have read about, you know, the development of left side or right side, you know that the left side tends to be sort of that logical, linear, sequential type thinking, right? And the right side tends to be sort of that creative, think outside the box. You know, how does the person connect the dots between 4 or 5 disparate type of ideas or thoughts? And so at a liberal arts college, well, at some colleges, up to 2/3 of your degree, of the courses that a student takes, can be in one particular subject area, in their major. And we know, if we've been through the college experience, that much of what we learn can, depending on the major, can be outdated within 3 to 4 years. from leaving that particular campus. So it's not just about learning a particular, content, but it's really about learning how to learn, because you're going to have to learn the rest of your life. Many times students, I think, have the false impression that, well, once I just get to college and get the degree, I don't have to learn anymore. And we know that that's just not the case. I'll throw in about the international aspect as well. And I totally agree with what Greg said. Students don't understand the benefit of being able to integrate and live and work and compete with students from all around the world. Because that's what we've been told. This is why colleges and universities are enrolling international students, because our alums have told us, you need to do this. You need to do a better job of preparing me for what I'm doing. About 5 years ago, we interviewed or surveyed our alums that have been out 5, 10, 15, and 20 years. And we had a young man who had been out about 10 years. He was a business major. He worked downtown Chicago. He was a VP for some company. And he said, I hope that you'll never change your liberal arts requirements for the business majors at Illinois Wesleyan. Because he said, I manage about 200 people in my company. And he says, I will admit to you right up front that I do not use on a daily basis what I learned in my statistics class as a business major. But I do use every single day what I learned in my sociology class, my religion class, and my sociology class, or my psychology class. He says, with 200 people, I am managing and trying to motivate 52-year-olds and 22-year-olds. People who have never lived in the city of Chicago, people who have never left the city of Chicago. And so this is what we're preparing students for. We're preparing you to live and work and compete in a global society. This generation of students will have to compete like no other generation has before. And so sometimes people are surprised when I say, yeah, we have alums in all 50 states and 52 countries around the world. We are preparing our graduates for that global society, because if you live or work for a company that is multinational, there's a very good chance that you may not even get hired if you're not fitting the bill. And what's the bill? I like to ask students to think about, what's their story going to be? What is your story going to be as a college senior? What are you going to be able to talk about when you go for an interview? You go to the law school interview, the medical school interview. What are you talking about? If you've just gone to Ha-Ha time, or if you spent time in this school's water park in the lazy river, that's not going to be very impressive to the person that is interviewing you, right? But if you've done what a liberal arts college expects, and that means that the extracurricular or outside the classroom experience is very tightly integrated with the in-camp or the in-classroom or course work that is presented. So that we expect students to have at least a study abroad experience. We expect them to have at least 1 or 2 internships before they leave, or that they've done research with faculty. And then that's their story. We had a student 2 summers ago that interned for IBM in Denmark. He found out that, at least in his division, the only people that got hired by IBM in this particular summer internship program were students who had had a study abroad experience. I think that says a lot, that this is a company that values that. But of course, many of you understand what IBM stands for, right? International Business Machines. I ask that to students all the time. Students don't know what IBM stands for, but it's in their name. So it's in their culture that they expect students to have at least, you don't have to be bi or trilingual. If you are, that's fantastic. You'll have a huge advantage in the interview process. But at least you have to have an understanding of people from different parts of the country, people from different parts of the world. And that's what I think Greg and I and Michelle, I'm sure, would agree, that that's the value of coming to a campus where this is not just happening just by chance, but it's a part of the culture. It's a part of the mission of the education that we expect students to take advantage of. Yes, our students, when you come to a liberal arts college, for the most part, the enrollment is 1,000 to 3,000 students, maybe 4,000. You'll be in small classes. What's the average class size at GBS? Do you know? 25. All right, the average class size is 25. The average class size on my campus is 15. So when a student walks into our campus, they better be ready to participate because it's an interactive type of education. And sometimes you hear all of these different types of rumors, you know, or the neighbors giving you advice and, you know, well, if you have a shy or quiet type of person, then maybe a smaller school would help because, you know, they're just going to take care of you. I would argue that that's not the case. That we want the student who's really wanting to be involved. They want to argue. Do any of you have children that like to argue? Yeah? That is a great quality. My son and I go at it lots of times. And my wife just drives her nuts. But as soon as we finish the debate, it's over. And I just think that's fantastic that he's developed that ability to argue a case, to argue his point. And you do that by practice. How many of you have read Pink's book or Malcolm Gladwell? Gladwell? Okay. And how do you get good at something? You have to practice. In fact, Gladwell says that there's the 10,000 hour rule, that to become an expert in anything, you have to spend a minimum of 10,000 hours. Well, that's 20 hours a week at least, or 40 hours a week, times 50 weeks out of the year. I'll give you 2 weeks of vacation, times 5 years. So our students, we feel, really get a jump on that 10,000 hours because they are going to be participants. They are not going to be observers. They're going to participate in their education because the faculty will expect them to be able to write effectively, to solve problems creatively. I had an alum that owns 3 different businesses. He told me, you know, nobody solve problems that I've already solved. That's not who I'm hiring. I'm hiring people who can solve the problems that nobody's been able to solve. And in today's increasingly complicated world, that means that you have to have some sort of multidisciplinary type of approach. I mean, he was a physics major who went on to U of I for engineering and now is in biology. But he's the CEO, so he's also doing business. He's also doing presentations to investors and to clients. It's the prototypical liberal arts person, right? Because typically the older you get into your career, you want to rise. And those types of skills are typically not at all connected to a particular major. In fact, of the parents, how many of you are in a job or career directly related to your major? Ooh. Students, look around. That's definitely probably about a third, which is pretty typical. So this whole thing about undecided is true. It is not your major that is going to determine your ability to succeed. It's your experiences. How do you solve problems? The Wall Street Journal in early January last year actually said the best recommended type of education for an undergraduate student, they feel, is a rigorous liberal arts degree. But the emphasis is on rigorous. Yes, you can have a lot of fun and float down the lazy river. And boy, that is going to be fun. You'll have a tan. You have stories to tell. But when you get into that interview, that person could care less about that lazy river. In fact, they would like to know, do you want to work for IBM? How many international student friends do you have? Have you really integrated yourself into that kind of an opportunity. So a liberal arts place is typically a great place for students who have interest in multiple areas. We are very eager to help a student find what they are really passionate about. I think the three of us, well, I'll include you two as well, we love what we do. We get up in the morning and, as my dad said, we get to go to work. As opposed to a lot of people I do know who get up and they have to go to work, right? And we want you to find that passion, that opportunity, that field or fields that you are so excited about that you can't wait for the sun to come up so you can get going for that next day. And that typically means we find that you're not singularly focused, that you tend to have lots of different interests. Phil White is an alum of ours who was a CEO for a software firm. He said it's almost without exception that you can walk down the hallway of our programmers, and he said you will find either a piano or a keyboard in the office of our programmers. And he said, really, when you think about it, writing music, playing music is very similar to writing and understanding code, right? This is left brain now. It has to be logical, sequential, and so forth. But if you're a musician, you understand how your part is so important in a much larger part, right? There was also Yale University did a study and found that the Yale University Medical School found that students who had taken a British painting class at Yale were actually better at discerning subtle differences in clients from visit to visit. And because they had trained the right side of their brain to understand the subtleties of different paint strokes and so forth. Well, if you're basically training your brain to notice those kinds of subtleties and those kinds of differences. And so that's why when students say, well, you know, I want to go to med school, we're like, well, that's great, but at least a third of your courses will be in your major, a third of your courses will be in the liberal arts. And we want you to take a fine arts class. Well, I don't want to do that. One of my very best friends is an orthodontist in Atlanta, Georgia. He told me one of his favorite classes was an art class. And he said, I can't tell you how reassuring it was when I got to orthodontal school that I had had some art classes. He said, I had buddies who were freaking out. You know, they were all these science majors, and he himself was a bio major. But he said, when you get to orthodontal school, you actually have to pick out the colors of white. And he said, my friends had no idea there were so many shades of white. And he said, but when you think about it, you can build the best, you know, teeth to replace for that particular client. But if it doesn't match, if you don't have the aesthetics down of that, they will never come back to you. You will never get a referral because you might have done the right scientific work, but the aesthetics, you have to be sensitive to that as well. That's what a liberal arts education will allow you to do. It will require you to do that. If you want to be a theater major, you're going to be in a lab class because that's developing that other side of the brain as well. I'm past my time. I will just say this about cost. All colleges and universities are required to have what's called a net price calculator on their website. So if you are really, really interested in what you think, or you're really interested in knowing what it might cost you to attend a particular university, then I would go to any college or university. In their search box, just type in net price calculator, and it will take you to a tool that will allow you to fill out some information and give you an opportunity to learn just what those costs might be. 3/4 of our students at the university or at Illinois Wesleyan University actually pay the cost at the U of I or less. So all of us, I can tell you that anytime we go to a professional conference, and especially in my field right now, there's not ever one conference or meeting that I attend where the topic is not making sure that our types of education are affordable. Because colleges are nothing without students. And so, and especially at a liberal arts school that tends to be undergraduate and residential, it's very, very important that we remain competitive with scholarships and financial aid. And a lot of schools are very keenly sensitive to that as well. So I wish you all the very best, but make sure you put boots on the ground, get out there and tour those different schools so you can see what type of school is really best for your son or daughter.
Well, we really appreciate your time, and most definitely we appreciate the time of our speakers driving up here from downstate to be with us to share some insight into this process. It's a fun process. There'll be lots more support from us. Look for our Junior Parent Night 2, which will be in January. I'm going to actually dismiss everyone unless you want to stay for questions, and we'll open it up to the audience. If you're interested in information about the 2 test prep options that we do have some brochures or handouts up here, but it'll also be posted on our website. We'll also have this evening's program on the website tomorrow, along with any handouts, a copy of our PowerPoint that will be available. Right up here in the corner are some questions, or some handouts about the test prep options. If you'd like to come up front and ask any questions, feel free to do that. Otherwise, good night and thank you for your time.
I took your notes.
Oh.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
My daughter's in special ed. You know what? Here. Right here. You guys are looking for handouts. I'm gonna stick them right here so don't have to all climb over the podium.
What are these handouts?
This is from the guidance office here about test prep.
Yeah, I don't.
Mhm.
Is this program?
I know. Here, I can take it. Thanks so much.